Good morning, everybody. It's 5:40 in the morning on the 14th of May, 2025. Yeah, I got things to do today, so I'm a little bit earlier, and some things I have to be back home on time for. So, anyway, looking at news, I don't have so much today, even though there's some very important things that came out. But it's like things you can pronounce, but there's not really a lot of facts on them. You just within themselves, I guess they're just important facts. So let's start getting into this stuff here, people. I'm early enough to where there's not a lot of people going to work at the time. So let's see. Okay, some news. I guess I could call it in a nutshell. During Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia, actually, very important announcement. He said he is going to end the sanctions on Syria and their Al-Qaeda leader. Give them a chance, he said. That's what he said. I don't know. Is it within Trump's authority? Is it within his authority to drop the sanctions, or is it in the authority of the Congress to drop the U.S. sanctions? I don't know if other countries have sanctions. I don't know. Does Donald Trump have complete control over those governments? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. United States, as far as I knew, was not a dictatorship, and he can't just decide all of this stuff himself. I don't know if it was the presidency that put the sanctions on. I think it was the Congress in general. So just to put that out. And so is it in Trump's authority to lift the sanctions all by himself? I don't know. So Merz, Macron, Starmer, they all say, and of course they're pissed off that Zelensky even agreed to have a meeting, or that he agreed to either himself or to send somebody to have, well, it's strange because it's supposed to be direct meetings, and it was supposed to be between Putin and Zelensky, and Trump was saying that he might go there, but it doesn't look like all these people are going to go there anyway. I think Trump later on announced it's Marco Rubio is going to go. So, and as you all heard, at least what Alex Jones said, that Marco Rubio is some sort of a big traitor. I put a lot of faith in the information that comes from Alex Jones, but I don't know. It's sort of like he has a mandate maybe to do something. I mean, I'm talking about Rubio, and he's got to follow the mandate, whatever that mandate is that Trump put out. And if he doesn't, he probably would get fired. It's not like Marco Rubio can do everything he wants to do. So, just putting that out. Okay, and let's see. Like I said, these guys say that Zelensky made a mistake to agree to go to Istanbul, but maybe they mean the delegation, not Zelensky himself. And of course they want to keep the war going, because it's not German lives or French lives that are getting lost. And to be honest with you, the only reason why these leaders would not want them to be is because those people vote. And if you start having a whole bunch of Germans or French or British people dying, then you're less likely to get votes. But they wouldn't care one way or the other. If they can make it look like Russia did something, they'll be all in on the war, believing that they themselves, when they combined together, they could beat Russia. Now, that's the whole thing. Pretty stupid. Anyway, let's not even talk about that. So, but like Fico said, for any of these leaders to be, putting in their 2 cents or putting in their 20 cents or whatever, he said, in so many words, Robert Fico said, the leader of Slovakia, in my opinion, he makes some of the best decisions of any leaders in Europe, of course, even though it's not a big prominent country in the European Union or Europe in general. He said, it's none of their business. That's a shocking statement. Oh, you mean it's not Germany's business to tell Ukraine what to do? What? Oh, that was that thing they used to have in the old days called sovereignty. But there doesn't seem to be any sovereignty in the European Union. Normally, everything is dictated by Kaja Kallas, who was not elected by any people really. she's a friggin' idiot anyway, and everybody knows, just like Ursula von der Leyen. But they're taking the computer chips out of the washing machines and the refrigerators to use them in bombs. Boy, what an idiot. What an idiot. I didn't know how who was her advisors? I mean, did she run that past her advisors before she said that? Two times in different things, right in front of a bunch of people, as if people are going to buy that. I mean, maybe they think everybody is completely stupid, that you can take some computer chip from a refrigerator and then it has something to do with with the inner workings of a bomb that's going to drop on a country. Yeah. Anyway, so okay, let's see. And what is some of the other news? The other news was, and some people are saying this is the biggest defense contract ever. You know, that sounds like something Donald Trump would say, but it was like $145 billion defense budget deal, you know, between Saudi Arabia and the United States, I guess, to make a bunch of weapons and things. And, you know, it's weird. Saudi Arabia is not really at war with anybody. They've been buying a lot of weapons for a long, long time, for decades. Some of the biggest buyers in the world. Now, I can understand India, you know, now India, of course, with their thing, but they got some pretty effective weapons, I suppose. Some from the US, some from Russia. And, of course, that's one of the biggest, most profitable industries, definitely, in the United States, is selling weapons. Maybe it's one of the only ones for export. You know, everything else belongs to China as far as exports are concerned. Yeah. So, and another piece of information, like in a nutshell, so to speak, the UN Aviation, it's called the ICAO. They say that after their investigation, that Russia acted badly shooting down that MH17 in 2014. You know, it's been a long time. But it's that Malaysian Airlines. You remember that? It was flying over Ukraine during the time when Russia was not even involved, of course. It was the people of Donbass involved in like a war against the Western Ukraine. So it's Eastern Ukraine against the Western, and Western Ukraine was pushing closer and closer and closer, and, you know, actually taking over more land, and they bombed that and destroyed the Donbass airport. There was a lot of fighting going on about that, but there's no way they could have landed anything anyway with a war going on. But anyway, they destroyed, West Ukraine destroyed that. And Russia is, of course, calling foul, and with good reason. You know, they thought, oh, maybe nobody's going to notice. Maybe this, you know, these people. Makes you also wonder. I would add my point. Makes you wonder how much money these people were paid. You know, because this is maybe going on for some years, and who has the big money? Oh, the West. And Russia doesn't really, you know, go along with paying a bunch of people off to get decisions made in their favor. But that's not even part of the complaint that Russia has. Anyway, it was done by a vote, and Russia said that the decision was biased based on the fact that much evidence was excluded, and it certainly was. A lot of evidence was excluded. And listen to all of this stuff. The decision was in large part based on testimonies of anonymous witnesses. In other words, nobody knows who these witnesses are. Maybe there weren't even any witnesses. Maybe they just said they were witnesses. So, you know, anonymous witnesses. And of course, you know, there's even more to support how nasty this is. Ukraine was allowed in the investigations. They were allowed to take part in these investigations, but Russia was not. So in other words, you know, it's like you're not allowed to defend yourself. So you go to court and you're not even allowed to go. It sounds like, you know, like there's a big grand jury process in the United States. When you're not allowed to go, you're not allowed to have a lawyer, any representation whatsoever. You know, they just dictate to you that you did this crime based on nothing whatsoever, and then yeah, you go to jail. There's even some crimes. I remember it's in the last 15 years in the United States, I guess they had some young people, and they were convicted of some sort of a crimes with a grand jury, and it's even a proven fact. They were thousands of miles away when some crime was committed. They weren't even there. You know, I think it was supposed to be a crime committed in, I don't know if it was Idaho or Northern California, or whatever, northern, not Southern California, northern, and they were in Arizona, and it's proven with witnesses that they were not even in that state. They were far away from there, but yet they convicted them of that. And I don't know if they caught up with them and put them in prison. There were some young people. I'm sure that they. I don't even know what it was about. I can't even remember, but it was really, really, really something. So anyway, based on anonymous witnesses, Russia was not involved in it whatsoever. They had nothing to say. And what about this black box? Remember they said this black box, Russia. I mean, it was the people in the Donetsk. When this flight went down, they found the black box. They gave it to Russia, and Russia gave it to Malaysia because it was their airlines. Malaysia can't read it, so they gave it to Den Haag, and Holland can't read it, so they gave it to Great Britain, who hates Russia with a passion. And Russia, the UK is able to look into these black boxes and to find out what the information was. So they did. They looked in, and then I guess some of the countries that are involved in this sort of a thing, they have the right to say they don't want it disclosed. And Ukraine said they don't want it disclosed, whatever evidence is on this black box. So, and it's not even mentioned whatsoever, that there was a black box or any information was read from it in this so-called United Nations, investigation. So it just blows your mind. It's everything possible to make sure that no real true evidence actually comes out. So what kind of an investigation is that? It's absolutely incredible. So that's part of the news. That's so I don't know. A lot of people aren't talking about it, but I guess this was just a day or two ago when they supposedly came out with this sort of a conclusion on that or whatever. Okay, what else? Lots of violence still. I think a second night in a row in Tripoli. A big success story of the United States. How they brought democracy, of course, to another country, just like Serbia, that has never stabilized. I mean, not Serbia, Yugoslavia, or that area there, after Milosevic and all that, after they overthrew that. And there's still stuff going on there, Or Iraq. Libya is another one. Afghanistan, now they got the Taliban in charge. So all these great success stories for the United States. Syria, that's really going mad, as you know, right now. So yeah, lots of violence. Let's see, and the forest fires, they had footage of that in eastern Russia, and it's weird, you don't really hear that much, but massive forest fires there as well. They show you and tell you about forest fires in other places. It makes you really wonder, this is the year of forest fires? I mean, gee, it's incredible. And it's during even the winter in the northern hemisphere. Think about that. Yes, indeed. Hostility between India and Pakistan, that continues. And Ukraine, apparently, there's going to be a referendum in Hungary coming up very, very soon. And a referendum is to let the people decide, which is actually a real democratic process, a referendum. That is real democracy. And it's the people of Hungary get to decide if they should vote in favor of Ukraine coming into the European or not. And apparently huge amounts of money and people resources from Ukraine trying to disrupt this vote. It's incredible. And Orban was putting that out, and the Ukrainians are passing out a lot of money, compliments of probably the U.S. taxpayers, as far as I know, or the European Union, whoever, or maybe they just sold a whole bunch of weapons to who knows where, and using some of those proceeds to buy a whole bunch of people in the opposition and paying people. And a lot of this stuff goes, they just, how, I don't know, I'm not even going to get into that to make a video longer of how they do it to make it look like it's not covert. So anyway, but at the same time, Ursula von der Leyen, as everybody knows, she's trying to figure out a way to block, because she feels, and Kaja Kallas, these two wicked witches of the West, I guess you could say, they are trying to figure out ways to block Hungary from their right to veto any sort of a deal where it allows Ukraine to come into the European Union. Orban obviously doesn't want that to happen. Of course, he's saying that now the people can decide, and he's going to, whatever they decide is going to go. but I think he's and he of course is trying to convince his people it's not a very good idea. It will bankrupt the European Union, and like I said, the great sucking sound, how Ukraine seems to, it's like a big vacuum cleaner sucking money out of anything that they look at, any direction it points, they just sucking the money out of everything. And of course, lots of fabulously rich people all over in Ukraine, millionaires and billionaires, lots of them. Lots of Rolls-Royce. The highest orders for luxury Rolls-Royce, as I've always said, it's been determined, is Ukrainians. So lots of stuff. And I'm not saying all the Ukrainians are getting rich, but there's a lot of them getting rich, lots of properties, buying them overseas everywhere. It's not just Zelensky buying, countless amounts of property nobody even knows. He probably doesn't even know how many properties he has. It's so very, very many. And what else is going on? You have Netanyahu. He says, in spite of everything, he is going to continue the war in Gaza. And not only that, he's going to be entering in the next days, he said, in full force. Like you thought, destroying the whole place. Basically, in certain parts of it, there's maybe some houses still standing. Maybe 20%, maybe 10%. I don't know. How many houses are still in existence in Gaza? Most of these people have no place to live, and they're just going from one place to the other, and Israel keeps hurting them, and big trains of thousands of people because they have no homes left. And but he's going to continue, he said, and he said he's going to go into in full force. Of course, obviously, it's ethnic cleansing. I guess he's saying it's now or never. We got to get those people out of there so we can take over. That's obvious. And of course, lots of the West Bank is already like that. It's really a terrible thing going on. And as you see, the Houthis, it's their best defense, trying to help those poor people. Yes, anyway, that's that one part about that. And, more things are coming out. Like even Jimmy Dore did he did a show, I don't know how long it was, 15 minutes or something, about this train ride, Casey Jones, the Casey Jones train ride with the Three Stooges, Macron and Mertz and Starmer, this riding that train high on cocaine. Casey Jones, you better watch your speed. Trouble ahead, trouble behind. And that notion just crossed my mind. So it crossed Macron's mind, so he reached out and he grabbed what looked like a bag, what looked like a napkin, depending on what video you've seen. Jimmy Dore had one, and they had a real close-up of it, and it looked like plastic. It's very strange. And they said, oh, it's the footage is this, and and who knows who's doctoring what. Deep fakes, everything is possible, so you can't say anything. But I'll tell you what you should go by. Instead of looking at, say, well, that looks like a napkin or that looks like a bag, I don't think you should judge it by that. You should judge your decision on whether it was or was not, like I'm saying, because the deep fakes are so very good. But what is not deep faked is these people's reactions and how they started looking, how they're looking, and how he grabbed, Macron, how he was going out of his way to hide whatever this was, this white thing on this table, as well as Mertz. Mertz, his was much easier because he could hide it with his hand, a very tiny thing, whatever it was, a spoon or something. Some people are talking about they have these hockey stick Coke spoons and stuff like that. I don't know, but it looked metallic on the one that I saw, and I don't know, very strange. But I'll tell you what, their behavior is very, 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 very strange in many ways. And of course, I don't know if it matters at all. Were they coming from Kiev, or were they going to Kiev on their way? Everybody's coming up with a little this and that, but it doesn't really even matter, does it? It's not like they don't have any cocaine over there, but a lot of people are saying that they were coming back from Kiev. I guess that is the bigger story, that they were coming back from Kiev. And everybody knows that Zelensky has some sort of a weakness for some sort of a white powdery substance, and I don't know. But here I'm putting this stuff out, and again, they really, really, really screwed me on my video even yesterday. It looks like it's going to be a regular case. That's one good reason also to come out early and start doing this, because and to try to not make it that long of a video. I don't know, because it gets to, the process with YouTube. I guess you have uploading. first you have preparing, and that goes for 1 or 2 minutes or something like that, and then they do the regular uploading, and it takes sometimes minutes before it even gets to 1%, quite a bit of time. And then when it starts doing that, and it goes, and I was thinking it had to do with wherever I am at, where I'm at, maybe in the city, and I was looking at that television tower, and I was kind of thinking, that might be a reason why it would be uploading faster, as if I'm in the area of that television tower. And here I'm kind of on towards the ends of the inner city limits of Minsk. It's not in the city center, in other words. So I do a lot of the videos here, of course, because it's not that far from where I live. But anyway, it's very strange that that I have all these different times. And I was yesterday, so what they did, anyway, they got to 99.9% of it uploaded, and then they stop. And it says 99% processed. So in other words, it's already gone through 100% of the uploading, and then you have 99% of the processing, and it stops. So that's done that 2 days in a row now. So, in the processing, it normally takes just a few minutes. So it's, it's stuck on there, and because they did it to me the first day, and I waited 4 hours, and it's still at 99.99% after 4 hours. So, and I thought, well, it looks like it's not going to change after 4 hours at 99.99%. So I had to stop it, and then you have to start all over again. You have to delete it and go all over. And then, of course, it takes all through the night and all the way up. You started in the afternoon or whatever. At that one time, I started at 5 o'clock. And it was at 5 in the morning, so it took 12 hours to do the entire thing again. And so yesterday it was around at 3, I believe, that it was stuck again. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to wait I'm not going to do that what I did yesterday. So I stopped it and started uploading it. And guess where I was? I was right near that TV tower. I was on a bus, but I was very close to that. And I was thinking, well, let's see. But anyway, it was still taking a long time. And then it still took until this morning. It was about 11 and a half hours before it was uploaded again. So I don't really know what they're doing. I guess maybe it's some of the words, some of the things I say. It's not very well appreciated, I suppose. And, a lot of this stuff they're not doing to other people. And maybe these people are having a hard time, but they're uploading it in Europe or the United States, and maybe things are a little bit slower here. I heard some sort of a rumor that there was some kind of a conflict between Russia and Google, and apparently maybe it's also the same thing about Belarus, so maybe the service is not quite so good here. But I haven't heard it from any other people. I know a couple people also putting up videos on YouTube in Minsk, and they don't have the problem, only I do. So that's just something to add in there. Anyway. And what else? The last thing I have to say is apparently, some of these Western governments are taking real offense to the attention that this train with this Casey Jones train ride is having with a lot of people. And like I said, I saw videos, and it looks like a bag. It looks like a white plastic bag. And then they have videos, and it looks like a napkin. And it's like, very, very strange. If you watch the Jimmy Dore thing, they have a close-up of it, and it looks like a plastic bag. So, it's up to you, whatever you think it's going to be. But like I said, I wouldn't even pay attention to what it is, because it's far too easy to doctor these videos to make anything look like anything you want. They've even had that ability since, I think, even in the 80s, the 1980s, they could do that. And one of these videos that was very famous is Donald Trump going to an airplane, and they looked like they had some kind of a homeless person sleeping under his airplane, and that was doctored. And that was back from the 1980s. And now they're far, far, far better at it. So all of a sudden a lot of people coming by here. I guess maybe a metro came, and these people made the walk to get here. But anyway, what I was going to say is that in France, I've heard some rumor, I don't know, that they've made it illegal for people to even say that it was a napkin. That if bloggers are putting that up and saying it was even a napkin, that they could be prosecuted for it. or something like that. So I guess they're really taking a lot of offense to that. I don't know if that is true. I've just heard that. It was on the Russian sites here. So anyhow, it's over 25 minutes, this video now, and I will end, and let's see what happens. Maybe you guys won't be able to see it for a long time or whatever. That's how this goes. But anyway, and it's so early, a lot of the time the news from yesterday is not quite all out yet. So anything can happen, like I say. Okay, thanks for joining me, and make sure you can comment. Make sure you hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks again. Bye-bye.